everyone. Welcome back to another episode of SASEtalk. I'm your host, Wesley Chow, and today we are bringing back one of our most beloved alumni of all time, Megan. She is a current third year in med school, and she has been dubbed, SASE Mom by everyone within SASE, and she is one of the most beloved members who is still in contact with us. And it's lovely to have you, Megan, and we are so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much. Oh, I'm touched. Y'all still remember me. But yeah, Wes reached out, like last week saying, hey, you want to do this? And I'm happy to give my time. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, this is absolutely wonderful. I still remember, no, Megan, you graduated when after
2019.
my freshman year, and it's been so long since we've been able to see each other again. And I think this is wonderful. No, with everything being online, this is the perfect time to bring back some of our more famous alumni and just have a little chat and see what's going on. So, Megan, what's going on? How are you doing?
I am doing well. So, like you said earlier, I'm a current third year at Albany Med. So, I'm on my clinical rotations right now. I'm currently in my pediatrics block for the next couple of weeks. Just been really nice. Of course, COVID has had some impact in terms of patient load and not as much. We're getting to see the cases are also different, not your typical cases, but overall, that's been good. So I have a weekend off, which is nice, but otherwise, yeah, this whole year has pretty much been switching from book work and test taking to more clinical rotations and still tests, but more actively talking to patients and developing those kind of skills.
Yeah, no, that sounds awesome. So I definitely want to talk about what you're doing now, right? So that must be how is that going? Actually working in a hospital and working with patients and being out there, especially in times like these where everyone's a little bit on edge with COVID and going on. So tell us more about day to day, what's going on for you? Are you mostly in a lab, mostly working with patients? Like what's going on your end?
So basically, the way rotations work is you're in the hospital or you're in an outpatient setting. It kind of depends on where they place you. So right now in peds, I'm more inpatient, so I'm in the hospital, basically working under residents and attendings. How it typically works is we're split into tracks. So there's different like A, B, C, D tracks. So I'm on track B, which dictates your rotation order. And then from there, basically day to day, it's I get assigned a couple of patients or I offer to take them like, hey, let's say we have like 10 patients that our team is following. So I may take on two or three, or even just one is fine, read up on them, go and check in on the patient, obtain their history, do a brief physical exam, the stethoscopes you see doctors like, wearing around their necks, not just for show. We actually do use them. Of course, I don't really know what I'm looking for, but I have a basic idea. So you do that, you get a history and physical, then you essentially present to your attending. Here's, this patient, here's what's going on with them, here's what I found. And the stage that I'm at is we are starting to come up with the assessment and plan. We're not expected to know, like, you need to give this drug at this, concentration for this amount of time. That's like resident level knowledge, but at least have an idea of like, we'd expect to get maybe these in these labs and we can follow these patients accordingly. So it's way more in-person contact in that way. The way COVID's affected, of course, is that we have to maintain proper protocol the entire time. We always hand sanitize before we enter rooms, wear eye protection. So even though I wear glasses, I still wear goggles on top. Um, I've seen people wear gloves before they actually do the physical exam. Of course, you use hand sanitizer when you walk out, maintain proper distance from the patient, or when you need to do the exam, of course, you would go in closer. But usually, of course, masks all the time, 24/7. Depending on the patient, you may even wear an N97 on OB-GYN. I was working in St. Peter's in December, and I had to wear an N95 like the whole 10, 12 hours, even in the OR, stuff like that. With the OR, so the way mine works is I'm not actually in the operating room or OR, but on OB-GYN, which is, female care and dealing with babies and stuff, I was in the operating room for a lot of it, helping with C-sections and stuff. So that's another part of your rotations is are you talking to people and you're just talking to them at the bedside, or are you going to them in the operating room? Like my next one is surgery, so of course that'll be pretty much all OR time and long hours. It's about adjusting to different schedules. Right now I'm basically 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Sometimes I get out earlier, which is nice. Other times I was 9 to 5. Other times I was, like 5:30 to 5:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. So your rotation also dictates the kind of day that you have. It's not a set schedule every single day.
So every single day is, new set of patients, new set of rules that you have to follow. Wow, that can I think that would get pretty stressful for me. I like to plan out my week ahead of time, but so now that's just crazy that every single day, a new different story. But definitely I think that would help your experience in just knowing what the heck is going on. So I think that that's pretty really awesome. Is this something that you intend to be doing, moving into the future? Is this your like this is exactly what I want to do, working with patients, being up in front, or is this, rotational program leading into something else that you want it to be more specific into?
For me, basically, I've wanted neurology for a very long time. Hopefully we can get it. But I do see myself like doing not OR. I found that in OB-GYN. I don't like the OR. It's very high stress, high, they have to be on top of things, and I just don't cope well with standing for long hours on operating table. So I see myself basically doing, I'm not sure again whether inpatient or outpatient, most likely outpatient or part of an academic hospital. I'm talking to patients and I'm helping manage their care. I look for long-term relationships. I really like sitting down, talking to people, getting to know them, rather than your quick, like 15-minute in and out, or just seeing them for an acute problem, resolving it, and then they leave. I know that's of course a very valid path. That's just not one I see myself doing. I see myself, maintaining the same patient base for a number of years in my practice. So that's kind of the way I'm structuring it. These rotations have helped me to kind of see like, where do I see myself? I had 2 weeks of peds neuro. So I was working with like an attending and a resident who were really, really nice and helped me see how that realm looks like. So I haven't canceled that type of field yet. Yeah, sorry, I forgot to say neurology means brain. So it's all about, like movement disorders, Alzheimer's to developmental problems like on peds neuro. You might see people who have birth issues or maybe they had a one and done seizure. So it's a very, very vast field. I don't honestly know where I see myself in that field yet. There's way too much out there that I've done some stuff, haven't seen others. So that part I'm still figuring out, but I do see myself in neuro eventually.
Yeah, wow, that's incredibly complex. No, but I think any field, they would have so many options. Even outside of medical, every field has a lot of smaller fields that you can get into, very specific. And I know for sure medical school, this is, this the first phase of, many other phase of education and experience that you would have to get into. So I'm sure, you will be able to find, what exactly you're going to be going to, but this is already a little bit more too complex for me to know what's really going on. So is this something that you've known, this career path, is this something that you've known that you wanted to get into from say undergraduate, your time as an undergraduate at RPI, or is this something that you've been developing, piecing together as time went on, and through your experiences, you figured like this is something I really have a passion for, or is it something premeditated you known for a long time?
So the way mine worked is I didn't know when I was like 5 that, oh, you know what, I really want to be a doctor. I was like hell bent on not doing it. And I was like, I don't know, it just seems like a lot of work, not like, I mean, this is safe. So not like most Asian kids who are like, oh, I want you parents have say you have to be a doctor or an engineer. Like I didn't really decide on medicine until high school. High school, I did some projects, and my grandfather actually has really bad rheumatoid arthritis, and my heart went out to him. So I thought, you know what? I think I want to do medicine to kind of at least learn more about it and be able to help people. Medicine for me involves two things. It allows you to meet a lot of different people. Some people you get along with really well, other people you may have struggle with, but at least you get exposed. So there's that you can, and then you can also learn, of course, about how does our system work, how does our bodies work, and I think that the field itself is like a great marriage of the two. So essentially in high school, I kind of had some ideas that, you know what, I think I want to do this. And my parents were like, okay, we're not forcing you, but you want to do it, go for it. So I volunteered, I did some research, and that's kind of where my neuro like developed more or less. And then in undergrad, the way mine worked is I did the combined program. So I had like 3 years of undergrad, and then my fourth year of undergrad was my first year of med school. So that's kind of how I straight shot it into med school. So I didn't necessarily get a break in between, which has its own pros and cons. but that's kind of how it was. For like at 17, 18, I was pretty sure I wanted to do medicine more or less.
Yeah, that it seems like I know RPI definitely does have, support students who do want to pursue that path, and it just sounds to me, it's very, very like direct line to kickstart your position as a med school student. 3 years of undergrad and your fourth one, you're put into Albany Med School, and I think that's a really wonderful program that RPI offers. All right, but has there ever been, that moment, which I would call like the fork in the road moment, where you had to choose between one or the other? Well, in your case, it seems like you've known that, like, kind of want to get into this category for a while now. But
Mhm.
has there ever been like, man, I really think, I want to try this, I want to try that, or you're stuck between a decision that would, now you would look back and say, oh, that would have been a fundamental change.
You mean like in terms of like within medicine or choosing between medicine and something else?
Well, I would mostly go within medicine, but if
Okay.
there has been a more bigger, fork in the road moment for you that was before that, well, certainly that as well.
For medicine, so I'm pretty set on neuro for now, but actually my very first rotation this year was family medicine. And I really liked family med. Like I didn't I know they're really nice people, but when you go in there, I was genuinely thinking about family med for a while just because of how it was structured. In there, it again emphasizes things that I like. For example, it's longevity of care. Everyone is super nice. As a student, their attendings rely on you more than they would in other rotations. For example, in the OR, you might be expected to like cut a couple of sutures or maybe help hold skin together. So you're not really doing as much hands-on. In family medicine, I was sent to go talk to patients individually, obtain their history, get an understanding of what they're here, even if they're new patients, for example, even the doctor doesn't know, just has an idea that, oh, this is like a new patient here for like OB/GYN care or something. And then so I would do that, then I would present to the attending, and then we'd go in together. So I really liked that aspect. I felt like I was actually helpful. I was more in control. um, and just the diversity of cases at my particular location. I was out in Schenectady, so we saw it was a low income area, so we saw everything from old people facing knee injuries to OB/GYN care. She's pregnant and she's due in a couple of weeks or so. All the probably babies are coming out now. To, for example, little kids that, oh, this mom was with this doctor, my preceptor for prenatal care, and now she's bringing her kids to go see her. So I was thinking that for a while, and I was really stuck between the two. I was like, I'm not sure, I'm not sure. Now, after seeing more neuro, I think I'm still kind of set on neuro, just because I feel like just somehow the subject matter is what I see myself doing, and it's a very like nerdy culture. But I did consider that for a hot second because I really, really liked who I was working with and I fit in with the team and everything in family med. So that was kind of one of my bigger decision points.
Yeah. So well, I'm actually really interested in though, because you covered so many different cases
Hmm.
throughout time, but
Yeah.
has there been a particular case, within neural or within family care, has there been, a particular case that really sticks with you that you find really memorable that you still think about, like either I can't believe I really helped them out, it was really
Yeah.
great, great experience, or was there something that was, this is really shocking, I didn't know this could happen. Was there something that still sticks with you to this day?
Yeah, so my issue or one of the things that I've noticed about myself is I tend to get very like emotionally involved more or less. Like I really feel for my patients, which they say it comes across like, oh, you seem like a really nice person, really sympathetic, but it does have the downside where like I feel like I either take it on too strongly or I need to learn how to like kind of split, dissociate, they call it, your personal emotions from the case. For example, in family medicine, I had a couple where I had this 18-year-old girl who came in saying, oh, I am a college student and I was sexually assaulted at a party a couple of months ago. And I haven't really, and I've been a straight A student. I've been doing everything fine, but after this happened, I found my life kind of railing, and I didn't really know what to do about it because my school is not a place where I feel safe talking about this. So that kind of stuck with me just to see how open she was with me and tell me that, I'm a stranger. I'm honestly not that much older than she was. Like she, wasn't like I'm much, it could have been me in all honesty, like most likely not, but just to see that, this does happen. Or I had another case where it was This one was heartbreaking, where I had this grandma come in and say that, oh, this is a 3-month anniversary of my 11-year-old grandson killed in a drunk driving accident. The driver was drunk and he went through the windshield. That one really got to me, because just to see that she's still actively grieving, she's still in pain, and she's coming out here to like take care of herself and see if she can get help. So those kind of cases really stuck with me, in that you'd be amazed as a doctor, like what a privilege, or even as a student, what a privilege it is to honestly talk to these people. They're telling you their life stories and the expectation that you're designed to help them with their health, and they're being very upfront and open about other emotional circumstances that are affecting them. Of course, we would, call psychiatry and have them and get them help and therapy and all of that, but the first step is honestly admitting that, hey, something's happened and I need help. And these things, the things that they tell you, aren't things they're going to necessarily bring up at a dinner table or at at a party or to anyone else, but they're telling you. So I don't take that lightly at all. I always value whatever they tell me and do my best to help them out, sympathize as necessary, find a way that I can be a source of comfort for them and that I'm thanking them for telling me this. So those are some cases that really stuck with me, just how personal in nature they were, and things that I'll remember, that, unfortunately tragedy does happen and you have to be aware, and you have to know how do you help your patients appropriately.
Yeah, so has that changed the way you view certain people or view certain professions within medicine? That like, before for me, at least when I heard your stories, I can't believe, how stressful and how much of a heavy burden that, it could be placed onto you. So have you, gone around looking at things differently because of your experiences with patients with, a lot of trauma, a lot of issues that, like you said, that brought up that are really, really personal and you normally wouldn't hear at, the dinner table. So has this changed anything for you in any particular way, for better or for worse?
For me personally, I guess they always say that you should always be aware that you never know what is going on with the patient when they come to you, right? So I think that's one of the things that this really brings up front. And that if, let's say, somebody is taking out their anger on you, or it's, in pediatrics, where it's not just the parents, it's also, or not just the kids, it's also the parents, right? That, I had a case in the ED last week where a little boy who was autism was coming in because he kept vomiting, and then turns out he had like a low sodium, and the dad was like nice, but also a little bit rude at the same time. He was making some comments like, "Oh, you're just a student, like I was expecting, some a higher up to come see me." So those kind of things, I always have to take a step back and, like, of course, I'd never like yell at the patient or anything, but it's important to at least maintain patience, and I always try to understand why are they saying this. Try to get that, okay, they're in this mindset, it's okay, they're acting accordingly. This is not really directed at me. This is just them reacting to their situation, and I just happen to be the one receiving it. So I guess in that way, my experiences have kind of taught me that perspective, that, if like your attendings or your residents, for example, like an OB-GYN, it can honestly be really, really stressful. But again, if they're taking it out on you, unless they happen to be a mean person, most likely it's not you. So it's important to keep that in mind, that as long as you do the best that you can, you try to think on your feet, try to imagine, how can I be helpful? That's the other thing I picked up, is how can I be helpful at this time? I sometimes tend to be like, oh, I'm not sure if I should do this, or like stand in the back or something. They're like, no, it's okay. You should get involved. You should try to help out. Of course, do it in a way that doesn't get in the way of the resident, but they will tell you like, hey, you think you should improve in this way. So it's a lot about trying to learn on your feet, being flexible, and then of course maintaining that sympathetic approach if you can.
Yeah, no, thank you, Megan, for sharing that. But I just want to know personally, how would you handle all this amount of stress and all the, as you said, the possible negative comments that are directed not exactly toward you, but as a reaction to the environment? I personally, I don't think I would be able to handle that much, pressure, the amount of burden that would be placed on my shoulders. So, is there a way, or no, does med school or does your community support you with ways that you could, help relieve some of that stress, relieve some of that burden? Or have you come up with new personal techniques that, you at the end of the day, you calm down, take a deep breath, and you unwind a little bit? What are some of the methods that you would approach, and some of the methods that have been offered to you that help you, de-stress a little bit from, the day-to-day workings, within a hospital?
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways to look at it. For example, the ED case that I was mentioning, I was working with a really nice resident at the time, and I wasn't going to say anything, but when we left, we were walking out to go back to the room. The resident was like, "Yeah, so that parent was a little bit standoffish and a little bit inapproachable, which kind of sucks that your first patient here was like this." But it's nice that sometimes, like, when you generalize a patient, of course, you never use any HIPAA or any like way to identify them, but sometimes you can talk about these patients like in our with our resident, with your attending, even sometimes, or if you're like, that seems like a little bit too of a professional route. We in school we have HCS, which is like Healthcare and Society, so we talk about more ethically challenging cases. That way, of course, with your friends, like it's gonna happen, of course, social distancing and all that. But sometimes a couple of us will get in a small group, like on a Friday, we'll get dinner, and then we always end up talking about our rotations. Like, I saw this patient and this attending, and I saw this and this. So that's a kind of way to de-stress, but also make ourselves aware. Honestly, a lot of medicine is trying to figure out how does this work ahead of time. If you can figure out what resources work, like, oh, for this rotation, here's what you should do. And it's all a help each other out scenario where we help prep each other, we support each other. So I think it's really important. And one thing that I rely on heavily is a small group of friends. I'm not saying, oh, I mean, if you have a big group, that's good for you. I'm not that type of person. I have like 4 or 5 close friends. So we normally like we'll hang out and then we'll just talk and de-stress in that way. Of course, that would be more towards the end of the week. On a daily basis, if let's say I'm coming home and I'm like, man, I'm so tired. Like today was just like exhausting. I really like baking, so I bake on the weekends. I literally tried to make an apple strudel today, which kind of came out okay, but I do baking. I watch a lot of anime, or I'll just like talk to my parents. Or like they check in, like, hey, how's it going? And I'll be like, mom, I saw this and this today, or I'll talk to my sibling or anyone. So it's really important, like you were saying, to find those stress outlets because if you try to bottle it up and keep going day after day, you're gonna go insane. Like it doesn't matter how good of a student you are, you're gonna meet circumstances that challenge you. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm terrified for surgery. It's 8 weeks of an OR, and I was like, but you know what? That's okay. We'll get through it. People get through it. So you just kind of figure out how do they do it, what are tips that they can give me, and help each other out. So that way, at least you have an idea going in instead of point blank. Okay, I don't even know what a scrub cap is.
Yeah, no, wonderfully said. Thank you, Megan. Even though I don't know, a lot of the people listening probably won't be in your situations dealing with such high stress scenarios. I think the things that you've mentioned, having people that you can rely on, having, opportunities that you can just vent. No, I would like to say just be able to just share your experience with people. I think that's important to anyone, no matter what stress they're feeling and where that stress comes from. So that is absolutely wonderful. But that now that you brought it up, I do have to ask, what anime are you watching right now to help you relieve stress the most? I'm personally interested.
That's
Uh,
so funny.
anything that you think, what series are you watching right now that, you are emotionally invested and this is something that, you will dedicate your life to?
Oh my God. Well, okay, so if I go into Weebst, okay, Genshin Impact, nice. So, for me personally, I think that this season is honestly really good. Like, I'm not gonna lie, there's some bangers on this season. So yes, I am an Attack on Titan fan, so I am keeping up with that. Um, I also like Skate Leading Stars and Skate the Infinity just because I like me some boy candy and trash, whatever. Those are my like, okay, these are my wholesome watches, just like for fun. Um, I'm watching like Beastars, The Promised Neverland, like oh, I don't know if anyone watches like Reincarnated as a Slime. I think that one's super cute, super friendly, I like the colors. I also started watching Castlevania on Netflix. It's really good. It's just like American studios. So I guess I watch a mix of like, cute and like fluffy to like super bloody to like stuff in between. So it's a good time.
That's awesome. No, a lot of, I also watch a little bit too much anime on my part. So I'm judging myself on how much time I will spend in front of the computer and watching. But no, let's get back to the main stuff, right? So I
Yeah.
think you mentioned this a little bit before, but you talked about how your school, the med school you attend, have a lot of organizations and opportunities where you can, go there to de-stress a little bit. So yeah, so what extracurricular programs are you currently a part of in med school, and what extracurriculars are available? Because I don't think that is something that is highly advertised as a student. When you go into med school, you don't really focus on what clubs are there, what
Yeah.
opportunities are there to get involved with the other students within that med school. A lot of people thinking, oh, it's just research, it's lab work, it's lab work. But yeah, what opportunities are there as a student that you can have a little fun, get interacting with the community?
Yeah, so the activities I'll talk about are pre-COVID. With rotations, I haven't done a whole lot, honestly. But pre-COVID, my first and second year, I got involved in a couple of different things. So I'm in, what's it called, Capital District Asylum Collaborative, or CDAC, where we essentially, what was not really known is that in Albany, we have a huge refugee population. It's a true state capital, right? So we have a lot of people coming in, and they often need help trying to get themselves situated, whether it's the one that we're working with is for asylum seeking. So I was working to help train people to work as scribes. So essentially, you would have someone who is seeking asylum talking to both a psychiatrist as well as a medical doctor and giving their entire story. Like, here's how I ended up here. Here are some of the injuries I faced. Here's the difficulties that I've had. As a scribe, you write that all down. Then you work with someone else. Usually, there's one experienced scribe and one new scribe. You work together to create an affidavit, or basically a medical summary, more or less, of what the asylumee or the person seeking asylum was talking about, and then they attach it to their application. And what happens is when you attach an affidavit to the application, that tends to significantly increases their chance of success for obtaining asylum. So I was involved in that one. I did also Generations Together, where you are paired with a buddy or essentially someone who is suffering from Alzheimer's disease and is being seen at AMC. We have a really good Alzheimer's center right on the first floor of the hospital. So I went by buddy like once a month, and we would do really fun activities. Basically, like we just get Starbucks and just talk about. She'd tell me all of her life stories, like here's my daughter, here's how I'm doing. She unfortunately passed away in May, which is really sad. Her disease happened to progress a lot faster than anticipated, so that ended up happening. But that was something that I liked, that I did. But other people, they got involved in a number of different opportunities. It's almost kind of what age group do you want to work with? Like a lot of people worked with kids, so they did playing basketball or helping cook for them. Other people went to a clinic and helped volunteer there. It was like just taking vitals or taking histories, kind of like what you're gonna do on the floors. What others? Other people did other aspects of refugee work. So we have what's called required service learning, where you have 40 hours you're supposed to get done over your 4 years, which honestly are not hard to do. I got them done my first 2 years, but those are, I feel like, really good opportunities to also get involved with your community, whether regardless of what age range you want to go to. I can guarantee there's an activity that will interest you in some way, so you never feel an obligation. Service learning becomes almost like a nice study break and a way for you to get those hours in and talk to people and get involved.
Yeah, so how different is it from, say, an undergraduate, club organization, right? I definitely know. I know that med school you have a lot more on your plate than you would have as an undergraduate. So, are the commitments a little bit different? Are leadership opportunities a little bit different just because of how much that you're already dealing with day to day? That clubs have a little bit different expectation or responsibilities are a little bit different, right? So how do they differ from an undergraduate organization to like a med school organization?
Honestly, just from my comparing my time with SACE, let's say, to med school, I think the only real difference in med school is that there is a lot more like flexibility, quote unquote, because everyone essentially are like academics come first. If you have, let's say, a kidney renal test coming up in like a week and you really can't get this thing done, then you are more than welcome to say, hey, you know what, I don't think I can get this done. Can someone take over for me? Or, you work together with someone so that way you both can complete it efficiently. A lot of people they get really good at efficiency, planning ahead of time. Like I have classmates who it's insane. I have one who she works as a cardiac care nurse, like on top of being a student in my year. She's also a mom. Literally gave birth like a year ago, and has another daughter in fourth grade. So she's like super lady. So and other people are like, oh, I'm president of like six clubs, and I like traveling, and I'm also a student. So really, your experience becomes what do you want out of it. There is of course no obligation or expectation that you have to do XYZ things. It's really what do you get out of it. Like for those people, that's just what they want. I think the mom really wants to go into cardiac care, and the other girl, she just apparently thrives on having like 15 activities because apparently it keeps her organized like that. That's on them. That's good for them. So in that way, I guess it becomes a lot of delegating responsibilities, signing up for what you think you can handle, but then also taking a step back and be like, I'm sorry, my grades are suffering. I can't do this right now. And people are more than accepting of that. They always say, like I said earlier, academics first, value your grades, and keep yourself healthy, keep yourself sane, because that's the last thing you want is to be like, in undergrad, for example, there may be more pressure, especially if you're applying to med school, to try to do like 15 things and then apply to med school. Med school is kind of like, okay, you're here, the hard part's already over. Now just focus on you and succeeding through this journey.
Yeah, wow, that sounds incredible. And just the people and their backgrounds, that's even from me, I like to consider myself someone who likes to be involved, but that would be uh just a role model for me just to follow in their footsteps, to have so much on their plate and yet still wanting more. So I gotta ask now, how do people find opportunities like this to get involved and to find things that they want to do, to find opportunities to get involved? Is there something similar to like a club fair, or are there opportunities that that are posted within the hospital, or where you guys are taking lessons and the lectures? How would someone want to get involved, even as an undergraduate, right? How would someone start to look at opportunities they can get involved in to have these experiences where they can develop their passion for whatever category they would like to get into? How can someone get more involved and interested into this?
Yeah, so our school is really good at advertising, honestly, those type of things. In the beginning of the year, we have a service learning fair. So this year it was all virtual, but otherwise in the past it was that the Hilton hotels literally like behind me, it's like over there. So we would rent out like the first floor, like this big, really big ballroom, and essentially all these organizations they would have like select times, and they would show up there. They'd have a little booth so you can go in, you can talk to the club officers, hey, I don't know anything about this organization. Can you tell me what's up? Just like you would at like almost like RPI's career fair, I guess, is the first thing that's coming to mind, except it's for clubs. Um, and so you'd go up to them, you talk to them, put your email down. They all were always spamming our email inbox with like, hey, here's some things that you can do. Or if let's say anything from like research, sometimes it might be a third year going like, oh, we're looking for like one or two other med students to work on this chart review project with us. Anyone, if you're interested in ENT, contact us with your resume. Do oh, this club is having this meeting, then they'll add you to like different email lists. So it's all about basically even lunchtime talks like 12 to 1. Basically, the way our classes will work your first 2 years is your classes will typically start like 8 or 9 a.m., go till 12. You'll get 12 to 1 noon break, and then 1 to like 3 or 4. It could be again earlier or later depending on theme or whatever. But essentially, 12 to 1 will always be free. So during that time, that's when a lot of these clubs will have their lunch meeting. And of course, back in the day before COVID, they'd have food and stuff like that. So people would just go into the lecture halls and hear either, a guest speaker talk or their intro meeting or whatever it is. Dance, I know, does a thing where they used to meet on Sundays, like once a month at a studio, like 10-15 minutes away from here. So it's basically just keep track of your emails, and often we also have GroupMe. So on GroupMe, people will be like, "Hey, this club is having this thing," or "We're having this thing." So look out for the link. But yeah,
That sounds awesome. Just having so many opportunities at hand that you can have. I know that would be really awesome to see, in that position, when your position actually, to just have so many options available where, you can go out to lunch here, go out to, see the speak over there. I think that's really cool. Of course. So how has that changed now that, COVID, is in place, and how have organizations adapted to everything being remote? Have they, transferred everything being hybrid and everything? Some people are in person, but some majority of people are online. How has that changed for a lot of the student organizations? I know for work, that has changed, a lot. A lot of things are stricter, but how have student organizations and activities been changed because of COVID?
So with COVID, what we're seeing, and also COVID, in addition to basically preventing clogging up our email inboxes, everything mostly switched to online, where people would be like, okay, submit your club budgets online, and then what would happen is people would fill out an interest form, they would attend the intro meeting, let's say for a club, and then they'd get another email like, if you're interested in receiving future emails for this club, please let us know, sign on this form. That way they'll add you to a list, and then you would receive um, emails if you were on that list. Because what was happening is everybody was sending emails out, and we already get so many emails as is, so then it just spams, it cleans up or clogs up your inbox, and you can't really see it. So that's pretty much what it is. As far as I know, I'm pretty sure like 98% of stuff is still virtual. There might be a little bit of like in person, but I think they usually cap it at like 10 people max or something like that. And then the majority is all online. Online also allows you the opportunity that, hey, if I'm not even going in person for classes, because classes I think are all virtual anyway, even small group and other required meetings that I have, let's say, for my the secondary classes to rotations, they're all online. So if they're like, I'm not even going to campus for any of these, I don't have, then I can, watch the lunch meeting at home. So in that way, it's nice. You don't have to trek it all the way out there just for that lunch meeting.
Awesome. That sounds great. I think that's pretty similar to what we have right now on campus for undergrad. So yeah, pretty similar. So yeah, can't really say much. So now that you're a third year, you've got a lot more experience than a lot of people listening and the people here. What would you say for the people looking to get into med school, right? So what would you recommend? Like, oh man, I wish I did that
Yeah.
in my time leading up to, preparing myself. What do you think would be helpful for kids to know? Not necessarily, just boost your grades, be good at, at what you do, but
Yeah.
what would you say personally that would really help kids, to get a head start in preparing themselves for, a position like what you're in right now?
Yeah, so I think for me, honestly, there's two things I would recommend. The one thing is scribing. I can't tell you how much I wished first year that I had scribed, because honestly, when you first start med school, it's not only an entirely different ball game, you're basically learning an entirely different language. Like the words that they're using, let's say you watch an episode of House and they're all like blah blah blah, like subarachnoid hemorrhage and all this femoral vein and catheters, and you're like, I just know the visuals and they solve the case and that's it. You know, once you finish your first 2 years of med school, let's say you go, oh, I actually know what you're talking about. I'm a really visual person, so if I can see it in my head, it makes sense. But I wish I had scribed just so I could have had some exposure to like the terminology. Like in my immediate family, honestly, no one's doctors. It's not like, oh, my, mom's a pediatrician and dad's like an ENT or something. Like the closest I got is my aunt who's in internal medicine. So I was essentially the first in my family to really like go through this. So I wish I had scribed just so I had some understanding of the field a little, even a little bit. Like here's, maybe what the inside of an OR looks like, or here's the whole power structure. Like, you're working under a resident who's under an attending, and the residents may switch or something like that. You get so I wish I had been able to do that just so I could have gotten some understanding of what it is, maybe go home, look some stuff up. So you're not trying to like, oh, let me try to learn all of med school like inscribing, but at least you have an idea that hey, I did not know, like for example, the scapula back here, that's the other name for your shoulder blade. Spent the first 2 weeks of anatomy going, what the hell is this? And then I was like, this it's so easy, but they're all the nerves and everything rely on you knowing that, and I was completely out of my league on that. The other thing I'd recommend, if it's possible, is to maybe potentially take like an intro anatomy class if you really want. Anatomy is something that you will constantly use, right? It's like, how does my system work? What are the names of my muscles? And again, no one's asking you to know like specifics, I had like a hint of it in human physiology in undergrad, which was moderately helpful, but I wish I had a little bit more exposure because I struggled with anatomy a lot my first year. I just did not know it, and it took a while for me to figure out here's the resources that work for me, here's even the names, here's how to do it. But those are the two things that I would recommend is basically try to get exposure, I guess, in essence, in the field itself beyond like I know some people work as an ENT and like, okay, that's a whole other thing that I know East Coast you can do it, West Coast where I'm from, not so much. But definitely I think scribing would be a really cool opportunity. And if you can take some anatomy, that's cool. And if not, that's okay. Maybe the scribing can help you with that.
That's absolutely perfect. No, I only last week I caught up with Grey's Anatomy and The Good Doctor, and I'm not gonna lie, those are some good shows. I really like The Good Doctor. It's a really fun show. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's really great. So, Megan, so yeah, I really appreciate you coming out and giving some insight as to what really goes on in med school and what can people expect? And I think, there's definitely a lot more, a huge ton more stuff that you experience all day to day that a lot of kids just don't know exists. So I would, if it's okay with you now, we would like to have your email within the description of our video so people can
Yeah.
reach out to you and just ask you any questions that they
Sure.
have.
Yeah. Do I put it in the chat or give it to you or say it out
Yeah,
loud?
so I think the one that you gave me earlier, would that be okay?
What email did I
The
give you?
one at with the at AMC one?
Yeah, that's I couldn't remember. Yeah, that's totally fine. That's my school email. So I check it like every day. So if you have any questions, reach out to me there. You can reach out on Facebook as well. I'm sure, Wes has it. So shoot me a message. I'm really bad at responding, but for sure, yeah.
Yeah, so thank you, Megan, so much. It's absolutely wonderful to have you here again. You have played such a great role in shaping SACE into what it is now. So what would you say to, the kids who are in SACE and looking to get in med school? How can we as and the rest of the e-board, how can we, better support the people that do want to get into med school who are in undergrad, like, I'm not too sure where I want to go. How can we support them better in your perspective?
In terms of trying to get to med school, I guess the biggest thing, honestly, you can do is to really ensure for those people who are applying to med school that that is something that they want to do. Like I was saying, I genuinely didn't know what med school was until I got there. So I always tell people this, do not pursue medicine if you're like, I'm in it for the money, for the prestige, because my parents forced me. You will hate it from day one onwards, and it's a long, grueling process. Like, I'm not trying to like dissuade people from going into medicine, but I really want to make sure that you understand the reality of med school. It is long hours. It is sometimes, honestly, I'm not going to lie, sometimes the material sucks and you hate it. It does get better as you go along with the years. I legitimately hated first year because I thought it was super boring. Second year was more interesting because it was pathology. And third year, you get to talk to people and you get to. I still honestly have some anxiety with that, but like, oh, I feel like nervous about doing certain things. But I would say for like from EPRO perspective or anyone who's thinking about medicine, like, whether you scribe, whether you work at it at the ED, depending on, COVID and everything, just really make sure that this is something that you personally want to do. It's not somebody forcing you, and it's not you looking for those extrinsic rewards of like money and stuff like that. You're gonna have a shit ton of loans, I'm not gonna lie. So, you really gotta make sure, like, am I actually do I really want to put myself through this? The payoff is worth it, 100%. I see like the residents and I see talking to people and you have such a big impact on their lives and you see how happy they can be. But it's not all like fun and games and it's not always, happy stuff like we were saying earlier with the tragedy and everything. If that's something that's an issue for you, you know, figuring out coping strategies. So that's the biggest thing I can do is just really make sure. And then if you want to, then seek out all the help that you can, all the opportunities. And I'm here, other people are here, can go from there.
All right. Thank you so much, Megan. That is a wonderful opportunity to bring you back and talk to you about your experiences. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you are listening on Spotify, on our YouTube account, thank you so much for listening. Please leave a like, a comment down below on what questions you might have about med school, and please subscribe and hit the bell notification icon. Special shout out, thank you to our sponsors, Boeing and Cigna, for supporting us and making this podcast happen. And thank you, Megan, again, for lending us your time on this wonderful weekend. And it is absolutely a pleasure hearing back from you. And with that, thank you everyone for listening, and we hope to see you again on the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye, thanks for having me.